what we. It is Sunday. We all love Sunday. We all love when you guys watch the sweat. Jessie, Coffield, Emerson, Lotzia. Lots on tap in this show. How about it?
Okay, well, you want to get us at us on Facebook.
That's true, like sports betting and fantasy.
YouTube, Twitter, betting, fantasy, all that good stuff. Our experts, though, want to answer your questions. So wherever you're watching us, get your questions in. Oh. We will get them answered for you live on the show. Right now, let's bring in those experts. DraftKings contributors, Steve Buchanan and Greg Ehrenberg.
Oh, love it. Our first of many NFL panels this morning. And starting us off is going to be the Seahawks favored by 7.5 in Atlanta. Can they cover, Steve?
Well, I mean, these are two just awful teams when it comes to covering the spread. The Seahawks are 3-4 on the year. The Falcons, the absolute worst in the league, 1-6. They'll probably troll us today and cover, but I highly doubt that. Don't take that as an opinion. The Seahawks should smash in this game with Matt Schwab under center here. I don't see the Falcons having much of a chance. The Seahawks, once they get up to a comfortable lead, can just run the ball with Chris Carson. This should be an easy game for the Seahawks. The Falcons are going to be coming from behind here. I feel like it's going to be a lot of dump-offs to Devontae Freeman. I just don't see a way where not only Atlanta wins this game, but even covers, because they don't cover even when Matt Ryan is under center. So this is definitely a game for the Seahawks.
Greg, pretty easy choice for you.
Yeah, I have to agree with Steve. The last time we saw Matt Schaub play quarterback, he wasn't good. And it's kind of been the case for a lot of years now. So it's hard to think he's going to have any success here, especially because of how poorly the Falcons have played this season. The other thing to consider, too, is that Matt Ryan was playing fairly well, at least from a fantasy perspective, when he was a quarterback of the Falcons. He was racking up passing yards, and they're just not going to have that element of their offense anymore.
All right, the total for this game is set at 50. What hits the over or the under, Greg?
That's a really high total for a game where Matt Schaub is the quarterback. Everybody has to have a gimmick. They have to have something they're known for. LeBron James is Taco Tuesday, Emerson is Leg Day, and Matt Schaub is Pick Six.
Damn right, kid.
I just don't see how they're going to be able to move the ball against the Seahawks offense. And the other thing, too, is that we've seen this where the Seahawks have been big favorites in games. They get ahead. They have no problem with Russell Wilson only throwing the ball 15 times, just running the ball with Chris Carson. So I think this could be a really slow-paced game. The clock moves quickly. It's a really high total.
Steve, where are you going on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the total, kind of like what Greg is saying, is reflecting as if Matt Ryan was in this game. I mean, even from a DFS standpoint, this was a game that we were looking at to kind of target, but with Matt Ryan out of it, it just kind of takes the wind out of everything here because you don't need Russell Wilson to go crazy like you would. Obviously the Falcons are going to be playing from behind in this one, so you like Chris Carson to run the ball here, but this just seems awfully high. You look at some of the other games with high totals like the Houston game. I don't see this game coming even close. Can Seattle put up points? Absolutely. Could they put up 30 points in this game? I think that's totally possible, but I don't see the Falcons making up the difference to hit the over to get to 51 points or above here. So this is a surefire under for me.
And we have the third member of our panel joining us now, the fantasy girl herself, Rosalie Michaels. Rosalie, we're talking about Seahawks Atlanta. The total in this game is set at 50. What do you think is going to hit, the over or the under?
Yeah, you got to agree with the guys here as far as the over-under. It's going to be hard. If Matt Ryan was in it, everybody said it's going to be a totally different game. But, Schaub's just not a very accurate passer. I can't trust that he's going to get the ball to the guys that he needs to, like Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, in order to keep up. And the pace of the game is going to be slower. I think we're going to see a lot of Chris Carson. So I agree with the guys. I think this is going under.
Okay, so are we fading the Falcons here in DFS, or who should people target maybe on this team, Greg?
I don't love them, that's for sure. If I had to target one guy, it would probably be Calvin Ridley. Now that Mohamed Sanu is no longer on the team, there figures to be a few more targets going to Ridley. Not a strong play, and overall, I think the play in this game is probably the Seahawks defense because they're way too cheap. They're priced as if Matt Ryan's the quarterback.
Steven?
Again, don't love it here, but I think Devonta Freeman is still in play here. Like, even with the game, aside from week 1 and the game that he got ejected, he still had double-digit carries. He's just under 5 targets a game. Obviously the Falcons aren't going to be running the ball a ton if they're down here, but at least early in the game, when the game is, somewhat neutral, he can still get some work, get some quick dump-offs here, especially if Schwab can't find anything or, just can't pass downfield, because that's also very possible. So I think he's still a viable play. Not loving him, not locking him into cash lineups, but at least for a tournament play, man, I think he's viable.
All right, Rosalie, you're not going to make an argument for Matt Schaub here, are you?
No, I can't, because you have to think about, number one, this is his first start since 2005. That's a long time. I can't even remember what I was doing in 2005. I was probably a teenager back then. And
Yeah, you were.
Of course.
You were young and in love.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. But I mean, even then, he was not accurate. He's not an accurate thrower. He completed 41.5% of his passes in that first game in 2005, 2004, and then 52.9% in the second one in 2005. So I'm not trusting him at all. I agree with Steve. Yeah, I think Devonta Freeman is a great play here because Ito Smith is out. And Seattle's tough against the wide receiver, but has allowed David Johnson and Chubb to really go off on them. And then I like Hooper here too. Those little short dump-off passes to Hooper. They allow the tight end to rack up the fantasy points as well.
Yeah, that dude's been tearing it up this year.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to Eagles at Bills. Buffalo up to 4-point favorites, but Steve, should they be?
I like Buffalo in this spot. The Eagles have been one of the worst teams against the spread with the Falcons. They're 2-5 on the year, where the Bills are 4-2. I just can't get past the Eagles' secondary woes. Like, I talk about this each and every week, how bad their secondary is. And I know there's supposed to be some high winds in this one. Weather. It's viable. It's actually viable in this one because the winds are over 30 miles an hour. So that's something we can actually worry about. Not the stupid drizzle all you people worry about. Oh, it's going to rain a little bit. What are we going to do? The winds. Yeah, but that's something you have to worry about. But that secondary has just been so bad that I think that the Bills should not only win this game, but win by a pretty good margin. So I'm definitely on the side with the Bills in this one.
Rosalie, are you with Steve on this Bills bandwagon, Bills Mafia? Here we go.
Yeah, I am on the Bills bandwagon. But Steve, sometimes rain does matter. Look at that San Francisco game, 9-0.
That's fine. But it's these little drizzles and people oh, should I wear a poncho to the game? I don't want to get wet. Fine, whatever.
It's not like that in Arizona. When it rains here, we get excited. So, yeah, I agree with him. I really like the Bills. Everyone except the Jets can score against the Eagles. Everybody else has put up huge numbers, and the Jets, we know what they look like on offense. So, and the Bills have been pretty good. They've been really good on the offensive side. And on the defensive side, right? They're scoring a lot of points, except for against those better defenses like Tennessee and New England. But everybody else, they're putting up a lot of points. So I do like the Bills here.
Greg, 3 for 3 with the Bills.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bills also. They're off to a 6-1 start. They've played really well. I know that the record is a little bit inflated just because their strength of schedule hasn't been all that difficult, but still, they're winning games, they're playing well, and the Eagles have been really inconsistent this year, and I think that the Bills' defense is probably the most consistent unit and the most trustable part of this game. So considering all the wins, I think the Eagles are going to have a really tough time scoring against the Buffalo Bills defense.
Well, Rosalie, we're looking at a total in this game of 40.5. You think the over hits?
I actually do like the over here. As I said just before, both of these teams can score. And yeah, Philly's going up against, a very good Buffalo defense. But they let up 21 points to Miami last week. And Philadelphia is a much better offense than Miami. So I think that Philly will be able to put up some points. I think that, Buffalo is going to easily get 27 points here. So for Philly to get 13, 14 points, I think it can happen. I'm going over.
Okay. Gregory?
So I like the under. I'm pretty excited to hear Steve talk about the total in this game because of the win factor. I don't know how this isn't going to play a huge deal. I was looking at the weather report this morning. Gust of winds up to 45 miles per hour in Buffalo. So I don't know how either team's going to be able to throw the ball, which means a lot of running. That's going to just reduce the amount of plays in the game. It's also going to make it harder to score in general, just all the wind. I think this is going to be a really low-scoring game.
Take it away, Steve.
Yeah, I like the under on this one too because the wind is a big factor in this one. I really do think that's true. And Buffalo 1-5 on the year on hitting the over. And then we've seen kind of the struggles with Carson Wentz. Hasn't thrown from over 200 yards in 3 of his last 4 games. Buffalo allowing an average of 13 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. This is not the team that you're going to have the go-to get-right spot against. So like the under on this one.
Carson Wentz with just under 10 fantasy points last week. I mean, Greg, is this the spot we see him bounce back in?
No, I don't think so. Buffalo is one of the best pass defenses in the league. We've talked about the weather. So if the Eagles are going to score, I think it's probably going to have to be with a combination of the run game, all the different backs they use. And I think it's just going to be an issue overall. Both teams are going to struggle to score the ball, immense amount of wins. And then from the other side of the game, John Brown figured to be somebody who's pretty chalky for DFS. I think he's somebody to avoid from the Bills side of the game.
Steve, the wind, I mean, do you think that's going to be too much for Carson Wentz? They're going to run the ball.
Everything, Carson Wentz checks up all the boxes. Why not to play him here? Ryan Fitzpatrick just threw the most passing yards against his Bills team last week at 282. Prior to that, nobody had exceeded 250, and we haven't seen a quarterback throw for more than 1 touchdown against this team so far this season. I don't see how Wentz is going to do it with all of his struggles. The loss of Deshaun Jackson really seems like it's affecting this offense as a whole. Wentz has been struggling almost the same time that Deshaun Jackson has been out of the mix here. This is not the get-right spot.
Rosalie, you with the guys on this one?
Yeah, it's funny because Dallas has been really good versus the quarterback at home. So I'm not going to blow that out of proportion as far as Carson's bad game last week because they only gave up 9.4 DK fantasy points to Aaron Rodgers at home as well. But they're right. Buffalo's really good against the quarterback at home also. 4.2 fantasy points to Tom Brady in those first couple of weeks. The thing is, in order for Wentz to have a good game here, he's going to need to throw the ball about 40 times. That's not going to happen because I heard a rumor that there might be some wind there in Buffalo.
We heard that too. We did hear that rumor.
Guys, let's go to the Chargers at the Bears, and some news just coming out moments ago. Keenan Allen testing out his hamstring in pregame warmups, and he's actually going to give it a go. Most people thought he was going to be out, but again, I don't know, proceed with caution there if you'd like. But 2 underachieving teams. You get the Bears, 3.5-point favorites there at home. Total's rather low as well, same as that Bills-Eagles game. It's 40.5. Are we thinking a low-scoring Bears team will actually win here, Steve?
I think they have a chance here. You look at the Chargers' offensive line. It's just been an absolute mess all season long. The Chargers are a team that is struggling with the over 2-5 on the season. And, quite frankly, the Bears have one of the best pass rushing units in the game. So if we've seen, Phillip Rivers struggling a lot in the pocket, out of the pocket, the Bears are going to just give him fits today. Keenan Allen obviously gives them a bump if he's active, but who knows how predominantly they're going to use him in this game here. So I still like the under on this one. I think the Bears win this one, but it's not really because of their offense, it's because what their defense is going to do.
Okay, Rosalie, Bears take this one?
It's hard because it's hard to trust the Bears. They just don't score a lot of points. Offensively, they are not on the ball. The 28th in terms of scoring points per game, so that's tough. Of course, the Chargers haven't been much better, but I think this is going to be a really, really close one. I do think it goes under, but I think it's going to be a really close one. I can see the Chargers pulling out the win here, just barely, but it's going to be tough against that really, really tough Chicago defense. They're going to have to lean on Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler and Hunter Henry. I just don't think we see much of Keenan Allen, even though he'll be in there. I think he's just going to be a distraction for the defense more so that they're going to target him. So I think I might lean a little bit Chargers here.
Ooh, Greg, which way are you leaning?
So I'm going to lean with the Bears. It's just we've seen the Chargers lose so many close games this year that if it's a tight game, it's so hard to trust the Chargers are going to win. It seems like the most likely outcome is the Chargers have the ball down by 1 possession at the end of the game, and then they have some ridiculous way of losing like we've seen every week so far this season. Maybe they lose on a missed field goal because we haven't seen them do that this year. They've done basically everything else. So I think that really works against them. The Keenan Allen injury, even if he plays, I think it's an issue. He hasn't been all that effective the last 4 games when healthy. Last 4 games, only averaging 7.7 DK fantasy points. So who knows how long he's been injured for.
Well, Mitch Trubisky has really struggled, to put it mildly. Rosalie, any chance you're looking his way at 4,900 in DFS?
Nope. Not at all.
Yeah.
Bears at home versus QB. Rodgers got 15 points. Cousins got 8.3 points. Teddy B did all right at 19.9, but they're all much better offenses. This is going to be one of the lowest scoring games. I'm a big nope. If I want to bargain, I'm going Tannehill. He's probably going to be chalky, but there's also Derek Carr there at 5K versus a high scoring game in Houston.
Greg, any chance you're looking at Mitch Trubisky?
Hard pass. So here's the thing with Trubisky. He used to be someone who had a lot of DFS upside because he ran the ball. He doesn't do that anymore this year, and he's not a particularly good thrower. So the way that he was an effective quarterback from a fantasy standpoint the last couple of seasons is he racked up rushing yards. He was able to score rushing touchdowns. We've only seen him go over 20 rushing yards once so far this year, so it's just hard to see where the upside is.
Steve, let me guess, you're passing on this one.
Jesse, I would roster you before I'd roster Mitch Trubisky.
That
this
would be
week.
smart.
I
honestly.
would. I mean, but here's the thing, too, is that his favorite target with Allen Robinson is going to draw shadow coverage from Casey Hayward. So that basically leaves him with Taylor Gabriel and Anthony Miller. Is that the recipe to win a game? Most likely not. If the Bears are going to win this game, which I do think they will, Stu, it's going to come because of the defense, maybe a couple pick sixes, maybe something on special teams. I do not see them winning because of the offense, and especially not with Mitch Trubisky. And Greg made a good point, too. He just doesn't rush the ball anymore. So what's the floor on Mitch Trubisky anymore? It's almost nothing with how poor. Can't throw downfield. It's just, he's an absolute mess. The Bears will be looking for a quarterback in the draft.
All right, we're ripping through. I saw the wink there. I really like that. I'm kind of distracted now, to be honest with you. But we are going to rip through more of the 1 o'clock games coming up. We're going to see what's cooking on the ground with all the DK Sportsbooks around the country. But first, it's our parlay of the week with you and Little Miss
Bullet. What's up, everybody? I'm Jessie Coffield from DraftKings. This is Bullet, and we're here for this week's edition of the Underdog Parlay of the Week. Bullet is going to choose which of our 3 parlay options is getting boosted, and this week we have 3 sets of underdogs, all paired up by state. The first group is the New York teams. We got the Jets, who face the Jaguars, parlayed with the Giants, who take on the Lions. Next, we travel down to Florida, where we have the Buccaneers, who will try to take down the Titans, combined with the Dolphins, who will face the Steelers on Monday night. And finally, we have the Cali teams, which include the Raiders, who take on the Texans, parlayed with the Chargers, who face the Bears. Bettors, our dogs have come through. The parlay has hit before. You're going to want to get in on this action. Let's find out who Bullet is going to choose. Are you ready, Bullet? Go ahead. And we have our parlay of the week. Bullet has spoken. Bettors, you're going to want to get in on this action. The parlay has hit before. Bullet, great job.
Okay, it is time now to hit the books when we give you guys an on-the-ground view of what's cooking at DraftKings Sportsbooks around the entire United States of America. Hal Tendler, DraftKings Sportsbook Manager at Resorts Atlantic City, Nicole Beauvert, Del Lago Sportsbook Manager, and Andy Crone, Sportsbook Supervisor at Wild Rose Resorts in Emmitsburg, Iowa. Nicole, let's start with you. Which teams are getting the most action and moving lines right now?
Well, I'm in upstate New York, so we're actually getting a lot of action on the Bills today. They're only giving up 2 points. They got the number 3 defense in the NFL, and they're coming off a 2-game win streak. So we got a lot of action on the Bills. Besides that, we had some action on the Rams. That's been our biggest moving line this week just because they blew out the Falcons last week, and they're playing the Bengals this week who haven't won a game. So a lot of people jumping on the Rams too.
Okay, Andy, biggest bet you've seen so far?
Our biggest bet this weekend has been on the Rams to cover the spread.
Okay, Hal, what have been the most popular prop bets in your neck of the woods?
We have a couple of people betting that Kyle Allen will not throw more than 1.5 touchdowns and minus 165 odds on that one. And our biggest bet was a $20,000 bet on the Pittsburgh Steelers, minus 13.5. Got it in the other day. It's now 14 here.
Andy, any popular prop bets where you are?
Yeah, our big prop bet today was Saquon Barkley going up against Detroit. Got the 28th ranked defense. So, yeah, we took a pretty big bet on Saquon to go over his rushing yards. So,
All right, Nicole, any other trends or special events at your book that you'd like to point out?
For tomorrow night football, for Monday night, we have a Labatt promo going on. And then besides that, we're just getting ready for the Nate Diaz fight on Saturday.
Love it, love it. What about you, Hal?
We also have the Diaz fight Saturday. We're having a big our 1-year anniversary this weekend coming up with the VIP party Saturday night and Sunday. Randall Cunningham's coming. We're having tickets going out to the Eagles Cowboy game and Eagles New England game.
All right, Andy, you got anything fun going down?
no like special events, but Friday, Iowa passed DFS here. So it's kind of exciting getting players signed up, helping them get signed up for DFS and kind of showing them how that works. So that's what we're busy with now.
Awesome, awesome. And I know we just mentioned Randall Cunningham. He is going to be a guest on our show this week, so that's something everyone here can look very much forward to. Thanks for joining us, gang. We're taking your questions right after Mike Francesa delivers his Sunday picks.
All right, we're expecting a really low-scoring game in Chicago between the Bears and Chargers. Both clubs are riding losing streaks, too. Which one's going to come out on top?
I would think the Bears win, but the Bears have so much talent, except they're terrible at quarterback. And I'm starting to think they're not good at coach because they just don't, their offense is awful. I mean, it's badly designed. It's badly run. Trubisky's awful. I mean, he's terrible. I mean, they have defensive players. They better hope they get a couple of defensive touchdowns. Their offense is just, I can't believe how bad it is.
Ryan Tannehill and the Titans will host the Buccaneers, and
You said it all there.
It's not been good. It's basically a pick 'em. Who do you like?
Listen, you said it all there. When you get replaced by Ryan Tannehill, you know that life is not good. Okay, I mean that's all there is to it. And both these quarterbacks have been disappointing, and I was wrong on one of them. And the one I was wrong on so far is Jameis Winston. I thought Winston was going to be. I never liked Mariota. I never liked Tannehill. I liked Winston. I thought Winston was going to be a good quarterback. Winston makes positive throws and positive plays. The problem is he makes more negative plays than any quarterback in the league. So, and you heard Arian say, I told him, just get rid of the ball. Stop trying to make plays everywhere. Throw the ball away, throw the ball out of bounds. But, you know, he keeps trying to make plays and he keeps throwing picks. I would say Tennessee just because, you know, I have to say something.
About 52 projected points between the Raiders and Texans in Houston. That is the most points on the board this week on the DK Sportsbook. Is this game going to get there?
Yes.
Who wins?
It will get there, and the Texans will win by 2 touchdowns.
All right, nice and lopsided. Niners, though.
Texans got a good offense. They had a good offense. They really do. That quarterback's productive.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little wrong about him, too, because I loved him in college. I pushed for 2 years for him to win the Heisman. He never did. He deserved it both years. I thought he would have a bigger problem in the pros than he's having. He surprised me.
As for the Niners, they're a perfect 6-0. Have the Panthers, and they've won their last 4. All 3 of their games outside Carolina as well. This one in the Bay Area. Is San Francisco going to keep its streak alive?
This is going to be a struggle. This is going to be a close game. I want to say the Dogs got a good chance. I want to say a 3-point game, call it one way or the other, but take the points with the Panthers. This one's going to be very tight. Could go either way.
Best team in the NFL, I know it, you know it, resides in New England, and the Patriots are going to welcome the underachieving Browns to Foxborough this weekend. Already shaking your head. I know you don't like Cleveland. You expect the Pats to cover 13 points?
No.
Okay.
I don't, number one. And number 2, I think the best team in the league is the Saints.
Oh, all right. So a different disagreement.
Yeah, I think – now, listen, I thought the Super Bowl was going to be Kansas City, which is disappointing me on a lot of levels so far, and the Saints. I think the Saints are the best team in the league. I think they will show it when they get Breeze back. And I think right now we're looking at a New Orleans Super Bowl. I mean, I think that's what we're headed towards this year.
Safe to say, though, we're looking at 8-0 New England after this week.
Yeah, they'll win the game. I don't think they cover them.
Welcome back to The Sweat. We're continuing our preview of the early games with this DraftKings trio. We got Reed Fowler, we got Gary Thorne, and we got Julian Edlow. All right, guys, let's start with Danny Dimes and the Giants visiting the Lions. Detroit is a 7-point favorite. Despite losing 3 straight, I mean, Reed, can they cover? The losses aren't really indicative of how good this Detroit team is.
No, I like Detroit here, and Darius Slay is out, so you can maybe bump up Daniel Jones. I think Golden Tate is a solid play this week. But as a whole, the Lions, they should be a team that has a better record. Usually they've lost some close games to some really good teams over the last few weeks. But just look at what Danny Dimes has done over the last that same amount of time. He's thrown a ton of interceptions, not been that good. After his first game against the Bucs, where he came in and stormed the league, he's done absolutely nothing. So I like the Lions.
Jules, what do you think here?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm actually going to play the spread at 6.5, but my lean is definitely with the Lions here. I just think they're the better team. They're at home. They're in the better spot. And they're just better at all positions, all spots on the field for the most part. So this is one where maybe if the Giants jump out to a lead, I would look for a live play on the Detroit money line or something so you don't have to lay the 6.5. I'm not sure I'm going to take it up front, but my lean here is definitely with Detroit.
Gary, and you with the guys? You like Detroit?
Yeah, like Reed said, you could feasibly make the argument that Detroit should have a better record. And by the record we care about against the spread, they do have a better record. They're 4-2 this season. They're 4-1 if you take away that massive second half disappointment in week 1 against the Cardinals. And the Giants are just bad. You look at teams who rank inside the bottom 10 in both offensive and defensive DVOA this season. There's only 4 of them. It's the Giants, and they're joined by Washington, Cincinnati, and Miami. And I think it's safe to say that 3 of those teams are the worst 3 teams in the league, and New York's not too far behind.
Julian, the game total is set at 49. Is that too high?
It is not too high. I like the over here, actually. As much as I like Detroit, their defense has been a little bit shaky. We're indoors here in a dome on a day that we have a lot of different weather concerns across the league. So I think the Giants are going to be able to do their part here. I just think Detroit's going to be that much better. So I could definitely see this game getting into the 50s, even with the Lions winning by a touchdown.
Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Reed already mentioned that we have no Darius Slay in this game. We're also, with the Lions side of things, still missing Mike Daniels. They just traded their starting free safety in Diggs. I think their defense is relatively susceptible right now. And the Giants, we don't have to list off any injuries or anything. They just have a bad defense. We're also talking about 2 teams who rank inside the top half of the league in pace by both overall pace and neutral play selection pace. So it's not like these teams are going to want to slow things down and really bleed the clock. So I do like the over here.
Reed, you like the over? 49 not too high for you?
I do, and Snacks Harrison, I think, is another injury that we have to mention. Saquon Barkley is not going to be underutilized, but the Giants, they pass the ball the majority of the time, 65% pass-to-run ratio. So yeah, give me the over.
So Kerryon Johnson is on IR. Gary, do you have any interest in Ty Johnson at 4,900?
A lot of interest, maybe too much interest. I'm almost worrying myself with how much interest I have in Ty Johnson. I don't think it's necessarily as simple as just inserting one Johnson for the other, but that's kind of what they did last week. He played 64% of the overall snaps. It was a much higher rate if you only include the snaps after Kerryon Johnson went down. J.D. McKissick's role didn't change at all, depending on which Johnson was in the game. And then you look at the Giants, this is one of the best possible matchups you could have as a running back. The Giants have allowed an NFC high 10 rushing touchdowns to opponents so far this season, and 6 of those 10 have come in the last 3 weeks. So things are really trending in the right direction. He's going to be a popular play. There's no doubt about that, but I'm okay eating the chalk here.
Reed, do you have as much interest in Ty Johnson as Garion?
I do. That projected ownership, 17 to 20% for Ty Johnson. You could argue that his price should be a little bit lower than this, but with this run offense, even though they're passing more, they still like to utilize the running backs in the passing game. The Giants have given up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. I like it.
Julian, you with the guys on this one?
I am and I am not. I like the play for the price, under $5,000. You get a running back at home as nearly a touchdown favorite with a game total of almost 50. So everything on paper looks good here. But just then when we look at the actual slate, are there running back plays that I like more? And there are a lot of running back plays that I like more in Leonard Fournette, Chris Carson, Sony Michel, Latavius Murray. There's a lot of guys on the board that make me think twice before putting Ty Johnson in like a cash lineup, just because I think other guys are even more safe. So yes, I like him. If you want him, you should play him. But I think there's a lot of good running back plays on the board today.
All right, let's move on to Jets at Jags. Jaguars are 7-point favorites over the Jets, who, as we know, just got rolled over in Monday Night Football. So, Reed, should Jacksonville just handle the Jets here?
I don't know if Jacksonville can handle any team. But like a ton of injuries on both sides of the ball. C.J. Mosley is going to be out for a few weeks. Jacksonville's linebacking core is completely depleted. I still like Jacksonville in this.
Julian, do you like Jacksonville in this one?
I do. I think the Jets are going to be motivated to bounce back from that performance. But this is still not a great spot for them. The Jaguars are the better team. I think that Leonard Fournette is going to continue to see his 25 to 30 touches and really help them grind this one out. But I think they can get it done by a touchdown.
Gary, and you're going to make an argument for the Jets here, possibly?
I am. I like the Jets a lot in this spot, actually. I just don't have a lot of faith in Jacksonville. If you look at their ATS history at home versus sub-500 teams, they're only 1-4 in their last 5 spots there because they're not that good. That's just the simple fact of the matter here. And I think the Jets aren't nearly as bad as what we saw on Monday Night Football. The Patriots have to be given some credit in this particular scenario. And really, even without C.J. Mosley the past couple of weeks, even including that slaughter in Foxborough, the Jets are only allowing 4.6 opponent yards per play the last 3 weeks. It's the 6th best mark in all of football. I think the Jets defense is the only unit in this game I actually trust. So I think they can keep this thing within a touchdown.
Okay, well, the game total for this one is just 40.5, which is low. I mean, Garion just talked about the Jets defense. Could we see the under hit here, Julian?
We could see the under hit here. This is going to be a stay away spot for me for the most part. It's such a low total that you almost want to take the over, but I also don't trust either offense, and I think it's going to be more of a get the ball to Leonard Fournette and Le'Veon Bell game, which is going to grind some clock. So I would definitely lean with the under here, but I don't think I have enough faith to really play either side.
Garrett, you want to go with the under because of that Jets defense?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Julian was saying, though. I feel a lot more strongly about betting the Jets with the spread than I do about picking the under here, which would be the direction I'm leaning because Jacksonville, 7-1, the under is hit. Their last 8 home games. The Jets are 5-2 to the under their last 7 games overall. Everything suggests the under, but once you start getting around 40 points, there's just some weird stuff that could happen. Like if Minshew or if Darnold throw 3 interceptions, which is definitely on the table, we get some weird field position in this game, defensive touchdowns. There's just too much that can go wrong here. So Jets money line's a bit of a stronger play, but I would say the under here.
Reed, you going with the under?
Yeah, 3 for 3. There's some spots that you want to attack potentially with the wide receivers and DJ Chark, Robbie Anderson getting their prospective matchups. And Jacksonville has hit the over 3 times, only once at home in week 1. The other 2 have been on the road. So yeah, give me the under.
All right, the 2 highest priced players in this game are running backs. So we got Leonard Fournette at 7,800, Le'Veon Bell 6,900. I mean, Garion, who do you like better in DFS today?
I love Le'Veon Bell. I've got him in a lot of places, actually, and I think he's kind of being underappreciated and underowned in this particular spot. Jacksonville's run defense has been atrocious the last 3 weeks. They're giving up 5.8 yards per opponent carry. Conversely, the Jets, for the entirety of the season, have the AFC's best rush defense by adjusted line yards, giving up just 3.5 adjusted line yards per rush. Really, the tiebreaker with Leonard Fournette, the thing he always has going in his favor is that he never leaves the field. He's meeting the other running back in this game who shares that trait. These are the 2 lone bell cow backs we have left, basically, and I like Le'Veon Bell for almost $1,000 less.
Reed, are you going to agree with Garion or do you like Fournette?
Yeah, Garion stole all the good points. It's going to be Le'Veon Bell. He's in a great spot. The injuries that I mentioned, I think is going to hurt more on the Jacksonville side, and you just get the price reduction with Bell.
Julian, where are you going?
So the PPR upside with Bell makes this closer, especially as touchdown underdogs here on the road. You could see Bell getting targeted a lot, but I'm still going to go with Fournette here because he has one of the safest floors in fantasy right now, and we know he's going to get at least 25 touches. So he's due for some touchdowns. I think he's going to get them in this game. So I'm going to side with Fournette here. Actually, one of my best bets for the player prop articles, you can bet on these 2 head-to-head in just pure rushing yards. Le'Veon Bell's season high in rushing yards is 70. Leonard Fournette's gone over that number in 4 consecutive weeks. I think Fournette was minus 160 last I checked, so I like targeting that spot a lot as well.
All All right, finally, guys, let's talk about Bengals at Rams. LA, huge favorite here with a 14-point spread. The game total is 47.5. Reed, the spread is obviously a big number, but if LA covers, do you think it will be because Cincy just doesn't do enough on offense today?
Yeah, since he's averaging 20 points over the last 4 games. And if you just look at what the Rams do when they're up by close to 10 points, they don't pass a ton. They just keep on running the ball. They may pass it, half the time. That's not what they do. They have the running back in Gurley. This is why you haven't potentially used him, is to save him as the season progresses. And so, yeah, it'll always be Cincy that they don't cover.
Jules, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Reed. The game script here to the Rams covering is just shutting down the Bengals, and I think that's the more likely outcome. I would lean under here, probably more strongly than laying all the points with the Rams. You can look at Cincinnati's team total, which is 17.5. So to win that bet on 17 from the Bengals, I think that would be a lot of points from them in this spot. Especially because these London games are just kind of unpredictable with the travel. We don't know exactly what we're going to see. So, yeah, fading Cincy one way or another, I think, is the key to this game.
Gary, and you going with these guys?
You know what? It might be better to just stay away from this game than what I'm about to suggest, but I kind of like the Bengals and the points. Like Julian talked about, these London games are an entirely different animal. It just throws a wrench into whatever your process happens to be for picking these games. And, if you go through their schedule so far this season, the Bengals have actually covered on the road against some pretty good teams. They've done it against Seattle. They've done it against Baltimore. They've done it against Buffalo. It's a lot of points for a Rams team that's looked good maybe once in the past 4 weeks. I like the under. I'm, again, probably going to stay away, but if I had to pick this game, I would take the Bengals.
All right, well, we've only had one game this season where Todd Gurley has gone over 20 fantasy points. I mean, Jules, could this be the day he goes off? He's 7,400.
It definitely could be, and for 7,400, you would hope so. If you're going to roster him, you need at least 20 DraftKings points here. So I liked Gurley a lot more in the beginning of the week than I do now. I just feel like I don't know if we can definitely trust him to get the ball a lot with 2 other decent running backs on the Rams roster. So, yes, I like him. I think he's a worthwhile tournament play to bank on him finally having that big game. But at the same time, he's definitely not a cash play that you can trust.
Garion, would you play him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have him in a couple lineups. He's probably not one of my highest exposure running backs, but he's perfectly fine. You look at his volume the last couple weeks, 18.5 touches the last 2 games. He scored 3 touchdowns in that span. This is obviously a fantastic matchup. I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. Like I said, I'll have a bit of exposure, but yeah, he should be a very good play this weekend.
Reed, where are you going on this one?
I think so. We should all feel like Gary's, I don't know. I mean, Gurley he's an anomaly this season. Cincinnati is not. They give up a ton of touches, yards, targets to the opposing running back. So if there is a week, it's got to be this one. So yeah, I like it.
All right, guys, we're going to take a couple viewer questions right now. Justin Anderson on Facebook. Who to start? Pick 2 here. Tyreek Hill, Allen Robinson, or Golden Tate? Garion, what do you think?
I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill, and I will begrudgingly give Allen Robinson another chance.
Yeah.
All right, Dylan Schmittler on Facebook asks, who is the cheap tight end to use today? What do you think on this one, Reed?
Oh, God, this one's tough. Cheap?
There's 2 obvious ones, and you pick between them. It's Jonnu Smith and it's Cameron Brate.
Jonnu Smith, give me Cameron Brate. Jonnu Smith, I like. He's similar to Delaney Walker, so you like that in just in terms of what he's doing, but I like Brate.
All right, thanks, guys. We're going to get to the rest of the 1 p.m. games. We're going to preview the later games. And don't forget, we want to hear from you and answer your questions on the show. So however you're watching us, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, ask your DFS or Sportsbook questions, and we just might answer them later on in the show. Get those questions in, you guys. Now, here's Adam Kaufman with Nick Eatman during the Dallas Cowboys off week, figuring out, everything Dallas Cowboys. Take a look.
Cowboys have the Giants next in the Meadowlands. It's a primetime game, so everybody will be watching, I assume anyway. New York looks a lot different than it did when Dallas won their first meeting by 18 to kick off the season, most especially, of course, at quarterback. What do you expect this time around?
Well, I think it'll be a tough game. I mean, Monday Night Football, the big spotlight game for Daniel Jones. I believe, Barkley got back last week, and he should be fine for that game. I think the Cowboys definitely have more talent, and I do think they'll be well rested after this bye week and healthy again. But the Giants always play the Cowboys tough, and vice versa. It doesn't matter who's the better team. These games are typically pretty close. The first one of the season, Dallas, it was close early, and the Cowboys pulled away. But I think this one will be one of those that'll be really tough all the way. And if the Giants have all of their receivers, because Golden Tate didn't play in the first game, he's back. Not sure about Sterling Shepard, but if they get a little bit more help for Daniel Jones, I know Evan Ingram was a big problem in that first game. So if they've got more weapons in that game, it could be a tough one for Dallas.
NFL trade deadline coming up Tuesday afternoon, so two-parter for you. What's Dallas's biggest need, and do you expect to move?
I'll flip it. I say no. I don't think they'll do that in any moves. If it were me, I would be looking. I think the position that's holding them back the most is safety, and I think I could say that for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I mean, they really haven't put a lot of priority on drafting high safeties. I think they could use a really good one, and there's not many out there, that would make sense. I don't think Dallas was. They love Amari Cooper. They love what they did. They feel like they stole one. That being said, they hated not having a first-round pick on draft day, and I don't see them doing that again. So unless a deal just made complete sense, I could see, maybe them trading at next year's second or third or something, maybe. But I kind of think that they're set this year with what, get healthy, get ready to go, and I don't think they want to trade any draft picks for anybody.
I just asked you a bunch of questions, obviously, but, in Dallas, what's the vibe? What's the attitude? What are you guys talking about? The fans, sports talk radio? Is it Jason Garrett's job security? Is it Dak Prescott's contract that hasn't happened yet? Is it something we already discussed? What's the focal point that everyone there is harping on?
Well, I do a podcast every day for an hour, so we talk about all those things. I mean, you pretty much hit the main topics there. I mean, and yeah, they all kind of get talked about. Jason Garrett, we joke that he's the Jason or Freddy in those Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and just when you think it's over, just when the girl is like, oh man, I'm glad that's gone, then all of a sudden he just pops up. That's what Jason Garrett's career has been. You think it's over, and then all of a sudden the best game, the most complete game, that and they have a kicker that's do the same thing. I mean, Brett Maher, just when you think, oh, who's out there? Well, then he hits a 63-yarder 2 weeks in a row. So that's this team right now. It's like I said, it's the up and down roller coaster type. Can they get out of their own way, and can they get healthy enough to actually string some wins together? That's the vibe. I don't think anyone's too worried about Mari's contract or Dak's contract right now. They feel like it's still going to get done, but the longer it goes, the one thing I'll say about those two deals is you don't want to have to get to a point where you have to use a franchise tag on either one of them. That might be where Byron Jones needs to get. So you hope they can figure something out there before too long. And sometimes bye weeks have been the week for it. So it'll be interesting to see. There's just a lot shaking this team. I think people think they're better than 4-3. But as Bill Parcells used to say around here, you are what you are. Yeah. Right now they're 4-3.
Okay, this dynamic duo is back. Jessie, Coffield, Emerson, Lotzia. We're going to wrap up looking at the 1 o'clock games right now with our superb NFL panel, which consists of
Steve Buchanan. We got Rosalie Michaels, the fantasy girl herself, and Greg Ehrenberg. So, guys, let's start with Cardinals at Saints. Drew Brees is back, which has increased the line from 10 to 12.5. Steve, I mean, can the Saints cover against a Cardinals team that has won 3 straight?
Ooh. I actually like the Cardinals to cover in this spot. I liked them when they were at 10, when Teddy Bridgewater was expected to start. Obviously, with Drew Brees, now it's 12.5. So I still like the 12.5 here. The Cardinals have been one of the better teams against the spread, 5-2 on the year. The Saints don't have Alvin Kamara. Michael Thomas is going to probably draw shadow coverage from Patrick Peterson, which is going to be an issue. Now, obviously, Sean Payton could put Thomas in the slot. He's done that before to avoid Peterson, but like I said, the Cardinals have been one of the better teams against the spread this season, so I kind of like the Cardinals in this spot.
Greg, do you like the Cardinals?
Yeah, I do against the spread. I don't think they win the game outright.
Yeah.
But if we look at what the Cardinals have done this year, even in the games they've lost, they've been very competitive. So that's the reason they're covering the spread, is it's just been hard to blow them out. They play games close, and then even if they are down towards the end, they've been pretty good at scoring garbage time touchdowns at the end and backdoor covers. So I do think that the spread's a little too wide.
Rosalie, are the Cardinals going to cover here?
Wow, I can't believe the Desert Girl is going to be the only one that goes against the Cardinals here. I don't think they cover here. I love what the Cardinals are doing with their big, air raid offense. They're getting a lot of plays in per game, so that's good. But when you watch them against good defenses, that's when they don't score as many points. They scored 10 against Seattle, which isn't even that great of a defense, and 20 against Carolina, but they're giving up a lot of points, as we all know. So they can score points. They're also giving up a lot of points. And I think that Lattimore is really, really good. I'm trying to figure out which of the Cardinals wide receivers are actually going to get in there. And, they're not throwing to Larry right now, and they need to. They've got some other guys at the perimeter, but I think that this is going to be a New Orleans Saints big win, unfortunately.
Hey, Greg, with Drew Brees back, are you going to play him in DFS?
So I wouldn't trust him in a cash game, and it's a little alarming that he did say that his thumb still isn't 100% and that it's probably going to be 3 months before he's totally at full health. But with that said, like Rosalie said, the Cardinals give up a lot of points, and it's in part because the offense plays such a fast pace. There's so many plays created in games that they're in. So look at Drew Brees, who's a little cheaper than we usually expect, plus matchup. And the other thing also, I don't think he's going to have all that much ownership, probably under 5% in GPPs. So as a tournament play, I think there's a lot of upside in Drew Brees, and he makes sense to play there.
All right, Rosalie, how much do you trust Drew Brees today?
I don't think I can trust him at all today. Yeah, the matchup's great, but I am worried about that thumb. It's kind of hard to throw a football if your thumb's not working right. So I am worried about it, and I think that if it starts to bother him at any point, they're going to put Teddy B in there because Teddy B's been really, really effective. So I just don't trust that he's actually going to play the entire game. And I think this is going to be a big Latavius Murray game. I think they don't have to put it on the back of Drew Brees. So I'm not touching him this week.
I mean, Steve, the Saints had to feel confident this guy can get the job done because Teddy B has been so efficient.
Yep.
And they have a bye week next week. They could have just chilled for 2 more weeks without him.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out why they're putting Brees in this game. But, with him playing today, I just am not risking it at all. Like, I'd much rather pay up for someone like Deshaun Watson in this game this week. Brees just feels unnecessary to go to. Maybe he's a good tournament play. But, especially with the spread being as wide as it is, if you feel like the Saints are going to win this game by that margin, like, you're looking to play Latavius Murray instead, not exactly Drew Brees. So I'm not a big fan of Drew Brees here. I get the upside that he has here. He's somebody that can, has that ability to throw from multiple touchdowns in a game, especially against a defense like the Cardinals, but I just don't feel like it's necessary to go that route this week.
Moving on to Buccaneers at Titans. Ryan Tannehill and company are 2.5-point favorites in this one. Tampa has lost 2 in a row, but Rosalie, can they pull off the minor upset here?
Oh, gosh. I want them to. I really do want them to, and I think that they can. They've got the offensive prowess. When Jameis isn't screwing up, they've got the offensive prowess to get it done. The problem is, can we trust Jameis not to screw up against a really good Tennessee Titans defense? And when Buccaneers are away, they only cover the spread about 18.5%, and after a loss, it's 23.8%. So I'm not trusting that they're going to cover this spread here. I like them for the upset, but I'm going to go against it. I think Tennessee wins this by a field goal.
Steve, what do you think?
This is like a tough game to really gauge. I think both teams are really poor against the spread. The Buccaneers 2-4 on the season, Tennessee 2-4-1. And when games are so close like this and I really just can't decide who I like here, I usually just go with the side that's more talented. I think offensively that's going to be the Buccaneers. Well, obviously we know that Jameis Winston is prone to blowing games like this. We saw the 5 interceptions he threw the last time they played before their bye week. But I love the matchup, particularly like for Mike Evans. I like Chris Godwin in this game. I know everybody's all hyped about Ryan Tannehill, but we've only seen him for about a game and a half so far. I'm not sure I'm all that excited to play him just yet. I know the matchup is really enticing here, but I'm going to side with the Buccaneers in this one. But yeah, it's a really tough game to gauge overall.
Greg, who are you siding with?
Yeah, it's hard to say because Tannehill did play well last week, and the issue is that people are going like, oh, Tannehill, look how well Tannehill played. We have plenty of data of Tannehill not playing well also. And then on the other side, Jameis Winston, we never know what we're going to get from him on a week-to-week basis. Sometimes he looks great, sometimes he looks terrible, and there's usually not much in between. It's either one or the other, and there's no way to really know ahead of time. They're both probably really high-variance quarterbacks. So I don't know what to make of this game either. I think that's why it's less than a field goal spread. So I don't know how you can feel confident betting either side.
All right, Broncos at the Colts. Colts are 5-point favorites here. Got a low total of just 42. Greg, is everyone seeing a low-scoring Colts team win this?
Yeah, probably. Maybe it could be a little bit higher scoring because I do think that the Broncos defense without Von Miller is kind of maybe sneakily not so great right now. And the other thing also is that the Colts could really just dominate the game with the run. They've done really well with Mac so far in that regard this year. So I think that the Colts should win this game pretty handily, probably on the lower scoring game just because of the amount of running that's going to be involved.
Rosalie, how do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I like the Colts as the 5-point favorites. I definitely take them in that. I agree. I think it's going to be lower scoring. You know, it's going to be a slower paced game as Denver Broncos games traditionally are. It's not a great Jacoby Brissett game. So like you said, it's going to be a lot of Marlon Mack, I think. And so, yeah, you got to like the Colts and the points, minus the points. And then, yeah, it's going to be under. I don't see it going higher than that.
Steve, you see a little underwhelming performance from Jacoby after that 4-touchdown week last week?
Yeah, I mean, the Denver secondary has been fantastic. I don't think they get enough love like they should be. And then we're going to see T.Y. Hilton getting shadow coverage from Chris Harris. He's done that against Allen Robinson and Devontae Adams so far this season. Held them to 4 receptions on 6 targets for 49 yards. Just absolutely shutting both of these guys down. If the Colts go ahead in this game, they will have no problem just pounding the ground with Marlon Mack. So I think I like him as a DFS play too as well. And then Denver's only averaging 18 points over their last 3 games. They're not really doing it offensively. No longer Emmanuel Sanders in the mix, so Cortland Sutton is now the wide receiver 1. We'll see how he steps into that role here. But yeah, this definitely has a low-scoring game written all over it.
Good stuff, guys. We are going to move on to the 4 p.m. games after a quick Sunday Night Football preview from our friends over at KFC.
Fun one on the way here in Week 8, Packers-Chiefs in KC. This is the Sunday Night Showdown presented by KFC. Adam Kaufman with Reed Fowler and Ben Zwyman. I think you know these guys by now. Packers have won 3 in a row, Reed. Now, before I pack my stomach with these lovely wings we have in front of us, we need your Colonel's pick for your captain spot.
Yeah, I think it's Aaron Jones. When you look at them going into Arrowhead, you're gonna need to lean on that run game. Like, if Mahomes is out, right, that's what the Green Bay Packers want. He's going to be off the field for a long time, the whole game, as a matter of fact. And so bring Aaron Jones. I know he's splitting carries with Jamal Williams, but he's still getting the majority of them. I like Aaron Jones here.
Benji?
Yeah, I like Aaron Rodgers. You saw what he did last week against the Raiders. He threw for 5 touchdowns. It looked like vintage Aaron Rodgers. He's like finally back. The offensive line's playing really well. The Chiefs have a decent pass rush, but the offensive line has only allowed 12 sacks this season. Aaron Rodgers is healthy. He can run the ball a little bit. He's got a lot of weapons, even though Devontae Adams isn't expected to play this week. So yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers, you got to go back to the well. The Chiefs are allowing a ton of yards this season.
So Ben, as Reed mentioned, no Patrick Mahomes, obviously a big difference there for the Chiefs. They won't look like their normal selves, but who are some of the other guys that are going to feast on your roster?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going with Aaron Rodgers, the logical thing is to go with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's the deep threat. He actually leads wide receivers in the NFL in plays of 40-plus yards with 5. He had a 74-yard touchdown catch against the Raiders last week. So, yeah, I mean, he's not going to get a ton of targets. He's not going to get a ton of volume, but the Chiefs give up big plays and they give up a lot of yards. So Marquez Valdez-Scantling really only needs 1, maybe 2 of those big plays to return value. So I like pairing him with Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, 1 vote for MVS. Who do you got?
LaShawn McCoy. So I'm taking the running backs, another guy in a committee backfield. He's getting the majority of the carries and the target share since week 6. Look, at the Green Bay Packers, we see it. They're a run funnel defense, so give me McCoy.
All right, that's going to do it for the latest edition of the Sunday Night Series presented by KFC. Try the new KFC wings today. These right here, they smell so good. Your choice of Buffalo Honey Barbecue or Nashville hot sauces. Their finger looking good. I can hardly concentrate.
All right, time to reveal our Caption contest winner. Every week on our Twitter page, @TheSweatDK, we ask you to caption a picture. This week, it's Emmanuel Sanders for a shot at $100 DK. The winner of the contest, by the way, Process MKW, congratulations, because your caption read, when you go to bed 2-5 and wake up 6-0. Yes, because he was traded from the Broncos, 2-5, to the San Francisco 49ers, who are undefeated at 6-0. I get it. Congratulations, you're the proud owner of 100 DK dollars.
Yes.
Wow.
So everybody be sure to enter because you can win every week.
Yes,
so
you just got to
make sure
follow
you do
the
that.
sweat. You got to caption the picture, and hopefully you win.
Yeah.
There's only one winner.
Okay, now let's bring in DraftKings contributors Reed Fowler, Julian Edlow, and Garion Thorne. We're going to take a look at betting and DFS angles for today's 4 p.m. games.
Yes, we are. We start with Panthers at 49ers. Kyle Allen will lead the Panthers into the Bay Area to face the undefeated 49ers. Reed, San Fran, 4.5-point favorite. Will they cover? Keep a goose egg in the lost column. I can't read the prompt right now.
It's okay, man.
I
You
literally
got it.
cannot read
You
right
got
now.
it.
No, I think Panthers are in a really good spot. They're 1-1 against the spread. And look, it's a simple. These guys, the Carolina Panthers have had a bye. They've had a ton of time to prepare for this 49ers team. The defense is strong, but I like the Panthers.
Okay, Julian, did you understand everything that I said, or do I need to repeat it and screw it up again?
I understood nothing that you said, but I read the question when we were preparing for the show, so I know what to say here. I actually also like the Panthers. Hopefully you could get them. They reached as high as +6, so if you liked them, hopefully you jumped on them earlier in the week. And it's nothing wrong with the 49ers. I think they're a good team and they're at home here, but they're playing another good team. If we wipe out the Cam Newton Panthers, the Kyle Allen Panthers are undefeated as well. So we've got 2 undefeated teams pretty much going head-to-head here. In what we think is going to be a low-scoring game with 2 really good defenses, 4.5 points is still really valuable. I think this is probably a field goal game one way or the other, so you take the 4.5.
Gary into San Francisco and Emmanuel Sanders cover. Can't hear you, bud.
Can't hear you, bud.
Oh.
There we go.
There we
Go ahead.
go.
Start over.
Sure. I'm going to take the 49ers here. I can understand why people do like the Panthers. They're 4-0 ATS their past 4 road games, as Julian mentioned. They haven't lost with Kyle Allen behind center, but I just think they have one major glaring deficiency on defense, and that is they're bad against the run. They're 30th by DVOA against the run, and that's all San Francisco wants to do. They run the ball more than any other team in football, and if you're going to be that bad against the number 1 priority of the opposing team, a team that's already undefeated, I'm just going to take that team who's undefeated.
All right, Julian, the game total for this one is set at 40.5, but could we see more offense than expected and the over's going to hit?
It's a low total, so yeah, it wouldn't take much offense to get the over here. It's a really tough spot. This is, honestly a stay away spot for me just because we could see this game going one of 2 ways, and we saw the 49ers playing a 9-0 game last week, although that was in extreme conditions with the rain in D.C. I think this is going to be a pretty low-scoring game. I could easily, I said I thought it was going to be a field goal. I could easily see it being 20-17, which would hit the under here. And even to Garion's point, if you like San Francisco to win that field goal game, a lot of running with Christian McCaffrey, a lot of running with the 49ers should keep that clock grinding, so I would lean under here.
Are you going to lean under here, Garion?
Yeah. Look, I know Carolina's scored 29 points per game their past 3 games, but these are first and foremost 2 pretty formidable defenses. And like Julian said, I think there's going to be a lot of running the football, specifically on the San Francisco side of things. And for Carolina, even when they don't necessarily run the football, it's a lot of short passes that are often completed. The clock is going to be moving consistently and constantly in this game. It's a low number, but I will take the under here.
Are you going to take the under, Reed?
Same. Look at this team 4-0 against the spread. 4-0 against the under hitting over their last 4. 4-1 at home as well. The San Francisco 49ers are hitting the under. Their defense is formidable. They're second in scores, offensive scores ending in a touchdown, or offensive drives ending in a score. So yes, this defense is formidable. I do like the Panthers, but this is going to be an under.
Gary, in a pedestrian 21.7 fantasy points for Christian McCaffrey. He's $9,200 this week, and the point total was last week I was talking about, obviously. But you have to find room in your lineup for him every week, like no matter what here?
Look, he's never a bad play. And I think you can always argue for Christian McCaffrey. He's just so hyper involved in the offense. He never leaves the field. He checks every box for a DFS running back. But San Francisco's just been so good and so stout against running backs, specifically running backs in the passing game. And while I do think an offense's inclination is a little bit more important than where a defense has been funneling targets in the past, they've only given up 28 targets to opposing backfields so far this season. It's the second lowest mark in all of football. And those targets have only produced 5 yards per attempt, which is incredibly low in the grand scheme of things. I think he can score like 22, 23 DraftKings points, but for his price, I'm probably going to be staying away.
Fowler?
No, I like this. Christian McCaffrey, when you look at just his production, what Gary mentioned, it's ultra efficient, and he's out there. And look at the running backs that this 49ers team that we do like. Look at who they face. They haven't faced a talent like Christian McCaffrey. I really like him. I like his price. Even though it's the highest, he's still going to be popular. But look what he's done. Tampa Bay, yes, has bottled him up, a really strong run defense, but the running backs that they've gone to is not that good.
Good answer, Julian. We'd like to say goodbye to our viewers here on News 12 Plus in New York. You guys are signing off, but the sweat, it's not over yet. We're going to keep this thing going until 1 o'clock. And if you would like to see more of the show, and of course you do, please head to Twitter, please head to Facebook, please head to YouTube, or the DK Live app. We are absolutely desperate, and we need you to watch us right now. We need those views.
Okay, we're not desperate.
Okay, well, we're just a little bit desperate, and we would like you to watch us on either Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Julian, would you like to answer the question?
We'll let you answer it now.
Yeah, I'm going to let you answer it now. We had to say goodbye to our friends in New York City. Do you remember what it was, or you need me to screw it up?
I do remember what it was. I didn't even know we were still on the air, but sure, I'll answer the question. I think that Christian McCaffrey is a very good GPP play because not many people are going to want to pay the $9,200 for him and see him going against this perceived very good San Francisco defense. And it is very good, but what I keep going back to here is that there are holes, like even the game where they blew out, where San Francisco blew out Cleveland, they only scored 3 points. Nick Chubb still was right at his rushing prop at 87 yards. So there is upside here for a running back, especially the best running back. So yes, you can play him in GPPs. He'll probably have lower ownership than usual. No, he's not a cash consideration whatsoever.
All right, Raiders at Texans. Houston coming into this one is 6.5-point favorites. Reed, these are your boys. Can Oakland come in here and pull the upset? Or, I mean, is Deshaun Watson and company going to cover this spread?
Deshaun Watson and company is going to cover the spread. Will Fuller is out. 11 points. Houston scores less when he's out of the game. Oakland gives up a ton of production, deep ball passes. That's going to be Kenny Stills. I also like Kiki Kuti in this game. Yeah, Houston covers.
Julian, Houston going to cover?
I appreciate your honesty, Reed.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's going to be Houston for me. Just look what this Oakland secondary, who is trading away some of its best players at this point, looked in Green Bay last week, going to Houston against Watson, Hopkins, and company. It's not going to get much better, so I think that Houston covers. I like the Houston team total over 28.5. I think we're going to see a lot of offense.
Gary, and I mean, Houston covers, right?
Yeah, look, I think the Raiders are going to be competitive in this game. I think they're going to score a lot of points, but the Texans are just going to score a lot more points. The Raiders' defense has been terrible, and while these guys are right to focus on how bad the secondary's been, I think one major aspect is, it always is against the Texans, if you're going to slow down Deshaun Watson, you have to get pressure, and the Raiders have just been terrible at generating pressure on opposing quarterbacks so far this season. They're the bottom 10 adjusted sack rate, and just in terms of raw sacks, they have the 5th lowest, just 10 so far this season coming into week 8. So if you're not going to get pressure from this Texans awful offensive line, you're just not going to beat this team.
Alrighty, Browns at Patriots, New England, undefeated, Cleveland underachieving, but is a 10.5-point spread too high, Reed?
No. Cleveland, even though they have a bye, they're 1-4-1, and their last 6 coming off a bye covering the spread. We know what the Patriots can do to a team that is of lesser inferiority to its coaching staff, and Bill Belichick will have these guys ready. So no, it's not too high.
Julian?
This is one of the greatest coaching mismatches that we've ever seen in Bill Belichick versus Freddie Kitchens, who I will say every time ran a draw play on 4th and 9 at midfield, down 7 points in the 4th quarter. Anybody that's ever played Madden in their life knows that is idiotic. It's not going to work. So you're probably not going to out-coach a more talented Patriots team on the road. This one's going to be a blowout. The Browns are going to be miserable in this game.
Garion?
Yeah, look, the Patriots' average scoring margin this season is 25. They've been really, really good. I back up everything Julian just said. And I personally can't wait for the New England Patriots to start their regular season schedule in Week 9. 12 weeks of preseason seems a little excessive, but you got to get tuned up. You need Bill Belichick to really fine-tune things. So we'll talk about them next week.
All right. I mean, Julian, do you think it's too soon to play Mohamed Sanu? 4,000 is what it'll cost you in DFS. Like, is it just too soon, or are you going to do it?
Yeah, it is too soon. And Tom Brady's expressed some frustration in all the receiver turnover that's been going on in New England. Look, I think Sanu's going to fit in well, but you don't need him this week in the bad weather in his first game. I think Brady might try and force it to him a little bit to try and get him involved, but that could just be something that goes on early in this game. I think attacking the Browns on the ground makes a lot more sense. So eventually Sanu could be a nice value if he stays at this price, but right now on the same price point as guys like Mike Williams, who's going to be very chalky, I just can't see it.
Garion, too soon?
Yeah, a little bit too soon. And also Cleveland's secondary, they get back Greedy Williams, they get back Denzel Ward for the first time since week 2. So you can't really use any of the stats we've been using against the Browns these past couple weeks. If you want to save money at wide receiver, like Ted Ginn at 3.7 is probably a way I would go over Mohamed Sanu. Similar upside because of their offense. And at least one has been there for like 5 years and knows the system pretty well.
I mean, Reed, any chance you're going to say it's not too soon?
No, it's not too soon. No, that's going to confuse Emerson. It's too soon for Sanu. Other guys at his price or around his salary, you have Jerron Brown, Seattle is going to be a good play. Kiki Kuti, you just mentioned him. He's $100 more expensive. Pay up there and just wait to see how Sanu fits in the offense. It's not going to be Antonio Brown where he comes in first week and scores a touchdown. It's not going to be the same.
All right, guys, you two, we're going to add Steve into the mix. You guys are going to exchange some hot takes with each other. We're also going to make it rain coming up. But first, Levitan's leverage.
We are almost at the midpoint of the NFL season. This is the Week 8 edition of Levitan's Leverage. Adam Kaufman and the man of the hour, Adam Levitan. Leonard Fournette and John Brown nearly touched 20 points for you last week, Levy. This week we're going to start with a different Brown. AJ, Titans receiver. Bucs have allowed the second most fantasy points to wideouts this year. He's just 4,100 at home. Is this a must-play now that he's got Ryan Tannehill looking at him?
Yeah, I don't think must-play because Ryan Tannehill isn't going to play nearly as well as he played last week. Every week going forward, and also A.J. Brown remains a rotational player. But yeah, you can just see it if you watch. I mean, A.J. Brown is a baller. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, and this Bucs team tries so hard to stop the run, and I think they will be successful stopping the run. The problem is everybody just throws on them.
Give you another receiver here, Kenny Stills. He's home for the Texans, only 4,700 against the Raiders, that horrid pass defense too. Are you basically just thinking he can capitalize on the Will Fuller injury?
Yeah, I mean, Will Fuller being out is going to lock Kenny Stills into an every down role opposite DeAndre Hopkins. And I think Kenny Stills has been a really good player for a long time, just has not had the right opportunity, the right quarterback, the right situation. I think that Sunday with Deshaun Watson against the Raiders defense, which is reasonably good against the run and really bad against the pass, just traded away Gary and Conley also. This is the spot for Kenny Stills to really capitalize and let people know how good he is.
Chris Carson is $7,000 for Seattle in Atlanta. Seahawks lead back struggled last week after 3 games in which he averaged 24 fantasy points. So why are you confident in the bounce back here?
Yeah, I think that with Matt Ryan's injury, and even if Matt Ryan ends up playing, I think you could project him to be a little bit less effective than normal. It's just a spot where you could see Seattle get a nice lead and really ride Chris Carson hard. And they've been willing to do that in neutral game scripts and even in some game scripts where they're behind. But when they're ahead, I mean, you can project Chris Carson for 25 touches easily, and you can get him up to 30 in some spots. And that's just crazy for only $7K against a really inefficient defense like the Falcons. So, yeah, I think it's a really good spot to get back on Chris Carson after he disappointed a lot of people last week.
You guys got to ride these videos hard because Levy's killing it every single week. Thank you, man.
All right, good luck.
Okay, now it's time for my favorite part of the show. Probably not yours. We've got Julian Edlow, we got Steve Buchanan, Reed T. Fowler. They're going to exchange sweaty, moist, scorching hot DFS takes. They're likely not going to make sense to you. Julian, again, going to yell, hoping you pay attention to him. Steven,
Loudly.
you are the captain of this ship. Please take it over.
Yep, definitely the captain for me here. So I'm going to go with Mike Evans going to score not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns in this game against the Tennessee Titans. I mean, first and foremost, he's going to be drawing coverage from Malcolm Butler. I think he has about a 2 feet height advantage on Butler, first and foremost. But this has been somebody who's been absolutely torched in coverage. He's been targeted against 44 times, allowing 29 receptions, 375 yards. 125 of those, mind you, have come after the catch and has been scored on 3 times already this season. Evans is an absolute red zone monster, getting 38% of the team target share when they are in the red zone. Winston could also turn over the ball 5 times, but in between doing that, he's going to throw 3 tutties to Mike Evans, who is way too cheap on this slate, by the way.
I don't mind it. Malcolm Butler has been garbage since he's gone to Tennessee. He's a smaller receiver. Yeah, I don't hate it. If this game gets out of hand, there's no run game for Tampa Bay, and so of course you're going to attack their secondary. Logan Ryan, all of these guys have been playing well from an IDP perspective, but when you have a Dory Jackson who's out and Malcolm Butler is not playing well, yeah, I can't. I mean, 3 touchdowns is a ton, but we've seen him go off on a slate and be wide receiver 1 once before. Godwin is always a guy to soak up all those targets, get all the production, so that does scare me, but I don't hate it. Steve.
Thanks.
It is a hot take because Mike Evans has not been very good this season, and Chris Godwin is the Bucs' best receiver, and I don't think there's any debating that. I guess my response here would be that in one of my season-long leagues, I'm playing Kenny Stills over Mike Evans, so that should tell you everything I think about how Mike Evans' day is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, he did get a donut, a bagel boss, if you will, one of those
you gotta hate. There's a lot of good things about being the bagel boss, but getting a bagel boss on your fantasy roster is never a good thing.
Okay, now, my hot take is Brendan Glasheen. No, I'm just kidding. There's nothing to do with Brendan Glasheen. It is the Carolina Panthers, and I know we talked about them quite a bit on this show so far, that they're going to cover the spread, but I think they win this outright. They beat San Francisco. They give them their first loss of the season. San Francisco has 2 offensive linemen, McGlinchey and Joe Staley, out. That the receiving core is banged up with Marquise Goodwin, Dante Pettis, questionable, probably going to play, but still questionable. And again, look at this Carolina defense. They should be number 1 on this slate. They have 23 sacks over the last 3 weeks. Carolina's covered and won over the last 3 weeks. I think they go into San Francisco and they beat the 49ers.
I mean, my response here is, are we sure that a team who, with their current quarterback and Kyle Allen, is also undefeated, who's a 4.5-point dog winning a game, is a hot take?
Well, that's why I said it. It's like a simmering hot take, but it's an undefeated team.
4.5-point dogs win all the time.
This is the best defense. We've been hearing on it quite a bit. This is the best defense. Shanahan, yada yada yada. Panthers go in and they win the game. And I'll even double down on that. I say the Panthers are the number 1 defense. I think Christian McCaffrey goes for over 150 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Hot enough for you, Julian?
No, it would be hot enough for me if you said that they win by double digits, just like I said that the Eagles would beat the Cowboys by double digits last week, and then Garrett would get fired. Yeah. And they lost by 27, but at least I went big. Now we're going big again. We're going to Foxborough, where the Browns are coming into town, with Mr. Freddie Kitchens leading the charge. Maybe he's going to run some 4th and 9 draw plays this week, which probably isn't going to work very well against the Patriots defense, because the Browns are getting shut out in this game. They're going to score 0 points in the rain, in the messy weather in Foxborough. The Patriots defense is too good. They're going to get their 2nd consecutive shutout here, all within the same week, because the last one came on Monday night. I think Baker Mayfield probably gets sacked 5 times, throws 2 or 3 interceptions against this New England front. It's going to dominate that Browns offensive line. I've gone with some goose eggs before, some bagels before in my hot takes. They haven't been right. 0 this week for the Browns.
Since Julian cut you off, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, so, I mean, first and foremost, I didn't get to respond to Reed's.
I thought you agreed with me.
I don't even know if we can call it like a simmer take. Like, I thought this was supposed to be a hot take.
They haven't lost a single game, and now Carolina with a
Neither has Carolina with their starting quarterback.
You think Kyle Allen is a good quarterback?
Is Jimmy Garoppolo a good quarterback?
Better than
Kyle
Allen.
Now I'm speaking for Bukes again, just still arguing with Reed.
Exactly. Go ahead, Bukes.
Thanks for letting me on the segment, guys. What I do like about the 49ers, though, is that the acquisition of Emmanuel Sanders. Like, I think this opens up the field for George Kittle, who's really been silent almost all season long. So with him in the mix here, I think it just brings a whole different dynamic to this 49ers offense. It really might be the last key to the puzzle that they need to go in and win this game against Carolina. I know Carolina defensively has been great, but I think the acquisition of Emmanuel Sanders is going to be the big difference here. So there's for your, simmer take. As for Julian,
go
Browns
hard or
are
go
just
home.
so bad. The Browns have looked so bad. Now they're going into Foxborough where there's supposed to be some really hard rain, like over 2 inches of rain, they're saying, throughout the day here. The Patriots defense has just been legit. Like, we can say all we want. Oh, they really haven't played anybody. They haven't played anybody. This is one of those teams that they could just absolutely shellac because it's not really a team if all you people want to keep saying that. So the shutout is, that's almost impossible. I mean, under 10 points, I would not think that's very possible that could happen here. 0 is just,
I'm going with under 1 point.
Yeah, we love Julian and his shutouts and his Patrick Mahomes for 500 yards. That's Julian's hot
Patrick
takes.
Mahomes will not get 500 yards.
How is this a hot take, though? You have the best defense going in with an offense that is not doing anything. They're in
okay,
New
so
England.
I would say shutting out
simmer.
a team is a much harder take than saying that the 49ers will come in and lose. I'm sorry, the Carolina will come in and beat the 49ers.
Right, so here's why it's a hot take. Reed went with something that's 4.5 points different from what we expect. The Browns team total's set at 16.5, so I'm going with 16.5 points different from what we expect, meaning it is about a 4 times hotter take than Reed's take.
The math is stupid. Julian's pick is stupid. Save us, please, Jessie, from ourselves, and especially from this guy yelling too much.
Yeah, wow. Okay, that was hot and confused. It was very, very confused. Let's bring in Rosalie and Greg right now to get some of their top fades of the day. Rosalie, let's start with the 1 p.m. games. Who are you just fading?
I'm fading Evan Engram, and it has nothing to do with the faith that I have in him personally. I think he's a great tight end. But at 5,300, we're noticing that Eli Manning was more willing than Daniel Jones to settle for those shorter targets to Engram instead of going downfield. Now we're seeing Daniel Jones target Golden Tate quite a bit. So with Jones as the starter, I think I have to start to bring Engram down just a little bit. Plus, with Saquon back, it's just between Saquon and Golden Tate, we're going to see more targets going those directions because they also compete with Engram for the shorter targets. Yeah, there's no Shepard, but last week when Engram should have had a big game against the Cardinals, he got 1.6 points. That's terrifying in a daily fantasy realm because you just can't trust him. If you can't trust him against the Cardinals, tight end weakness, how can you trust him in other areas? So yeah, the matchup's good, but Engram is a target needy tight end, and I don't know that the targets are going to be coming his way this week.
Greg, who are you fading on the early slate?
Yeah, so Julio Jones, and I'm going to make it simple because I've got my eye on the clock here. Matt Schaub is this quarterback. It's a big downgrade from Matt Ryan. It's not a great matchup for the Falcons either. I think they're going to struggle to move the ball. They're going to struggle to score. And Julio Jones is still priced as if Matt Ryan's the quarterback, so he's way too expensive for this spot.
All right, Greg, what about 4 p.m. fades? Who are you looking at in those games that you just don't want anything to do with?
Yeah, so Tyrell Williams, this is his first game coming back from plantar fasciitis. He's missed the last couple of games. And if we know anything about this injury, it's generally been a fantasy production killer because it's a lingering injury. It lasts for a while. And a lot of times we see guys, it takes them months before they're totally 100%. If we look at what Tyrell Williams did before getting hurt, he was a very good fantasy producer, but he was also very reliant on touchdowns. He scored a touchdown in every game that he played in before getting injured. So against the Texans, even though they've struggled against number 1 receivers, I don't really like the spot for Williams coming back from the injury. I think it's going to linger for a little while.
Rosalie, your 4 p.m. fades.
I'm fading OBJ. You know, Baker has yet to throw a multi-touchdown passing game, and Beckham's getting the targets. Yeah, 27% target share in his 6 games. Unfortunately, he's not doing a lot with it. You know, averaging 13.2 PPR fantasy points. Now he's getting the Patriots and Stephon Gilmore, who is shut down. He is just playing lights out. And even though he's been really heavily targeted, he's holding opposing QBs to a 34.6 passer rating. So there's too many great options around that price point. Mike Evans at 6,600, which if you heard Buchanan say, he's going to get 3 touchdowns this week. So if you believe that. And then Golladay at 6,400 versus the Giants.
Steve is just thrilled that you referenced him there. All right, guys, one more break here. We're going to take more of your questions. Our analysts are going to make it rain. That's coming up after some Pat Mayo sleepers.
What up, SWAT fans? Pat Mayo here inside the Pat Mayo Experience studio. If you missed the show at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, like it is every single Sunday, give your head a shake, pal. You need to be tuned into that. I got Chris Meany from The Athletic here with me to talk about DraftKings values.
Let's do it.
For the Week 8 slate. Let's start at running back. There's one.
That's
Ty
it.
Johnson,
Yeah.
4,900.
Yeah, probably going to be pretty chalky. Touched the ball 14 times, going up against the Giants. That's what he touched the ball last week 14 times. Going to catch it to the backfield. I don't mind the chalk. I know it's going to be high ownership, but I like him. If you give him 15 touches at that price.
Yeah, it's
hard to come
if you
off
want to
of.
get away from the chalk, the move isn't to pay down or flop onto James White or anything like that. Just pay up at running back.
Yeah, pay up maybe for Latavius Murray, Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, and then someone even higher.
Or, yeah,
you could go up to
the top
McCaffrey,
dogs.
you could go up to Bell, you could go up to whoever.
Yeah.
Just all the best running backs are expensive. You probably want to pay up for them. Now, receiver. Here's a list of guys who are all $4,200 and below that you can use. Auden Tate, Mike Williams, Deshaun Hamilton, Anthony Miller, Ted Ginn if Breeze is active, which we'll know by the time lock happens, you'd hope, and A.J. Brown. I like A.J. Brown the best.
I like A.J. Brown too. I was encouraged to see Ryan Tannehill use him and Corey Davis. So Davis probably a little bit more chalky or more expensive. A.J. Brown is nice. Auden Tate, I know it's frustrating to pick a Bengal, but you figure Jalen Ramsey is going to be on Tyler Boyd, and Boyd's been pretty quiet lately against top corners, and nobody's thrown the football more than Andy Dalton this year.
It could work the opposite way, that they put Ramsey on Tate because Tyler Boyd plays the slot, then Tyler Boyd gets everything.
It is possible.
I would just avoid Tate. Just avoid the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, sure. The one thing I do like is that Dalton is throwing the ball a ton, and they can't run, right? I mean, over 50% of their runs have been 2 yards or fewer, and last week they had 2 rushing yards between their 2 running backs. So there's going to be a lot of chucking in that game.
A lot of people will be on Deshaun Hamilton solely because Emmanuel Sanders was traded. I don't like him in the spot. I don't think that his role really grows all that much. Mike Williams, I would like him more if Keenan Allen was like 100% healthy, but all of the attention is going to be on him.
Yeah, a lot of the attention will be on him. He is interesting at $4,000 though, but it's been the Hunter Henry show over the past couple weeks, and I like Austin Eckler a little bit more if Keenan Allen is going to be officially out of that game. But Williams is a guy that I will take a shot on.
I'm telling you, Ted Ginn if Drew Brees plays.
Absolutely.
Patrick Peterson likely on. Michael Thomas. Brees is back in. Let's take some deep shots. It's at home.
It's at home. Yeah, heavy favorites.
No Traquan.
Yeah, no, for sure. You know that Brees is going to take a shot downfield. There seems to always be 1 or 2, and no Traquan, like you said.
Quarterbacks. Derek Carr at 5,000 is the only one I really like from the pay down bunch. Like that's the second highest projected point total on the game. Tyrell Williams back. We had such an easy stack too. Williams, Waller, Carr.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Bring it back with DeAndre Hopkins.
For sure. There's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. Everybody will be on Houston. It makes sense to go the other way with one of your lineups. It's a good game stack.
I think so too. It's an easier game stack to figure out because even if you wanted to take Houston, Watson, Hopkins, Stills.
Yeah.
Hopkins, Watson, Fells, or whatever you want to do. Like, there's only so many options. The problem with the Raiders stack is those are going to be the volume guys, along with Josh Jacobs, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like, Foster Moreau will catch a touchdown, or Trevor Davis will take a reverse. You're like, oh, man, just keep this idiot out of the end zone.
It happened last week. Yeah, it certainly happened last week, and Waller could have had a better day if one of his touchdowns called back. But the target share between those two guys when they've been active, especially Waller, has been so high, it's really hard to ignore.
Yeah, even at $5,900, it's hard to pay up for tight end this week because there's so many cheap guys.
There are a lot of cheap guys.
But I still think that's undervalued.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
it
it's
is
too cheap.
because of all the volume that he's gotten. Yeah, and you know what? Derek Carr, say what you want. He's been pretty accurate. I mean,
Yeah.
besides last week he had a couple mishaps in the red zone, one the fumble, one pick.
The fumble was bad.
The fumble was awful. I think that's the second time he's done that over the past couple of years. But he's been throwing to those two guys a lot.
$3,400 and below, there are 5 guys that you can feel good about playing at tight end. Darren Fells, probably the least one you feel good about, but it looks like Jack Doyle might miss this game. Eric Ebron's $3,400. No Jared Cook, Josh Hill, he's down there. Jonnu Smith with no Delaney Walker, Cameron Brate with no O.J. Howard. Like, if people are going to save money in their lineups this week, it's with one of these guys. I actually like Ebron the best because no one's going to use him.
No. The people are either going to spend up or they're going to spend down for a Brate or Smith. So, yeah, nobody's going to use Ebron. He's still a big part of the offense, especially with Doyle out and in the red zone as well. He pulled down a nice catch last week. He's been pretty productive as a Colt.
Cheap D's, Tampa, and the Chargers are the two that I got. 25, 2,300.
I mean, fade Tannehill and the Titans. I think that's to go the other way.
They've given up the most sacks in football.
Yeah, and Tannehill's not great under pressure. He hasn't been that quarterback that can, get away from that kind of pressure. So I think that's very interesting. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but both teams are going to struggle to run the football, right? So
pass. You want pass attempts against if you're a defense.
Exactly. Good call. Bears and Chargers also. I like
the Bears are expensive.
The Bears are expensive, but I think you can get involved with both those defenses.
Agreed. Chargers just come at a bit of a discount. Chris Meany, that's him. Pat Mayo, that's me. Tune in every Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on the DraftKings YouTube and Facebook channel to watch the Pat Mayo Experience, get your questions answered, have a few laughs, and some tips on basically who not to bet on for the week. But for now, back to the sweat.
All right, guys, we got about 6.5 minutes to go. Let's try not to screw it up, okay? DraftKings contributors, Reed Fowler, Steve Buchanan, Greg Ehrenberg, the Fantasy Girl, Rosalie Michaels. They are all here right now.
Yes, they are. We don't know what's going on in that fourth box, but this is a segment we called Make It Rain, so we need to know who your locks are for Week 8, somebody who's going to make it rain cash. Steve, who's it going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be Leonard Fournette for me. I think people are thinking that, against the Jets, it's a tough matchup, on the ground. But this is somebody who, basically, its volume is king when it comes to Leonard Fournette. 4 straight games of over 20 carries, averaging just under 5 targets per game. The Jets have only allowed one team to go over 100 rushing yards against him, and that was the Cowboys with someone with Ezekiel Elliott, who gets very similar volume like Fournette does. I'm not worried about the price tag. I'm not worried about the matchup. Fournette is going to get his touches. He's going to get his carries, so locking him in here for Fournette.
Yeah, I like this one too. He's never really the top, 2 price guys, and it's an easy pivot if you're playing in these bigger GPPs because of that safe floor with the production. The only thing I will say is that when you have Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley in better matchups on paper, there's an argument to pay up for those guys and save elsewhere, but Fournette is a safe cash play every single week because of that production.
All right, Rosalie?
I'm confused about Christian McCaffrey in a better matchup against San Francisco, though.
But he's matchup proof. That's what I'm essentially. There is no matchup for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I'm going Gurley at 7,400. You know what? He's still, as much as we're disappointed in Gurley for this year, he's still the team's primary scorer. He has 6 touchdowns in 6 games, and in any given game, he has multi-touchdown upside. He's top 8 in the league right now with 12 carries inside the opponent 10-yard line. So you've got that, plus going against the worst in the league in Cincinnati. Opposing backs, too, get 5 to 10 yards past the line of scrimmage easily. So I think Gurley has a great chance to have a couple of just big touchdown runs here. The linebackers have just been incapable of limiting yardage to the running back position. So break off the big runs, plus the end zone touches equals multi-touchdown game and RB1 for Gurley this week.
Reed, you kind of responded to Steve, but let's get your lock for
I'm
Make
playing
It
the
Rain.
Julian Edlow role here because we kicked him out because he was yelling too much.
Yes.
Yeah, Gurley, if there is a spot that you like for Gurley, it's this week. Again, playing the devil's advocate, we just don't know, especially with that injury missing a couple of weeks. We just don't know that the amount of production that he's going to get. He needs to get that 75 to 80% because he's not doing it with just based on attempts and yards because it's obviously been down. He needs those touchdowns. Good thing you get the Bengals to give up a ton of points to opposing running backs. At 7,400, I don't mind it, but give me Fournette in that spot just because I'm a little worried about Gurley because he has to get those snaps.
Okay, we got about 3 minutes to go. We'll hit some questions because Greg's not here. His power went out. So
sorry, Greg.
Send a few thoughts and prayers his way.
TNP, Greg, TNP.
Yeah, I hope he makes it. Reed, Stills or Westbrook?
Stills.
Okay.
Yep.
Steve, Josh Allen or Minshew?
I'm going to go with Minshew on this one. Obviously, I'm not the one who's advocating for fading weather and stuff, but it is a legitimate concern with the Bills with that over 40-mile-per-hour gust there. So Minshew is in a good matchup too as well. So I'm going to slide with him.
Rosalie, OBJ or Crowder?
Crowder. I already said how I don't like OBJ this week.
Okay, great.
Reed, Chase Edmonds or Chubb?
Ooh, Chubb against the Patriots scares me, but Chase Edmonds, give me Edmonds.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. Obviously, for GPPs, a little bit more Edmonds, and Chubb is.
DJ's out.
I know, but still, I just All right, Chubb against Patriots.
Speaking of GPP, Steven, Sony Michel and GPP since Burkhead is active.
Yeah, so that's kind of a tough one to decide now. If Burkhead is active, it's kind of gets a little bit messy again. That's what we always worry about with the Patriots backfield. Obviously with Burkhead in there, he could get some of the goal line carries over Michel. I know Michel just punched in 3 last week, but he struggled at the goal line this year. I would not be surprised if Burkhead gets in there for the goal line work. So Michel loses a lot of appeal for me with Burkhead active.
Rosalie, Godwin or Carson in flex on DK?
You know, it's a tough matchup for Godwin, but you just got to trust his target numbers, man. Carson's getting a lot of touches too, but I'm going Godwin just for the target numbers.
Reed, I don't know why someone would ask this, but they're Carr or Wentz? I mean, you go Carr right there, right?
Carr? No, go Wentz.
Are you serious?
I just
Are
Carr.
you serious?
Carr does not throw a ton of touchdowns. I like that game against Houston, but he just doesn't score touchdowns.
Oh gosh,
It's
get out of
Carr.
here.
It's
I
Carr.
don't know. I mean, he doesn't need it. Like, what is he gonna do? He's not gonna rush
Carr's
for
got
it.
Terrell Williams left.
He doesn't score any touchdowns. He doesn't throw any touchdowns.
Waller.
And Waller, yeah.
No. I don't like it. You asked me the
Send
question.
it
I
head
don't
to
like
head
it.
with Reed. He'll play Wentz.
Yeah, please. And I like the Raiders. Trust me, I like Carr, but he just
Yeah,
doesn't
you
throw
do.
touchdowns. That scares me.
Wentz is. Ooh.
Yeah, I know,
Steve,
guys.
Steve.
I knew he would say that.
Steve, John Brown or Corey Davis?
You know, same thing with the win there. I'm going to go Corey Davis here. If the win wasn't a factor, I think John Brown would be the easy answer here. But with Tannehill, at least we've seen some life with the Tennessee Titans, so I'm going to roll with that side.
T.Y. Hilton or Allen Robinson, Rosalie?
You got. Ugh.
Gross.
I like Ty better. I just think he's the number one guy. They score a lot more points. It's a better offense. I'm going Ty.
All right, we have 20 seconds left, so that's
Yeah,
it.
that's it for this show. Thanks for
guys.
joining us here on The Sweat. We will be back next week, as we always are, bringing you all the way up until kickoff. And you can watch us every weeknight at 6 p.m. on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and the DraftKings app. So you guys should definitely be tuning in, and we'll see you next Sunday. I'm so excited. Are you excited?
I am very excited.